Welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to cover the three main things you need to know about Python for loops. But first, if you haven't done so already, please hit that thumbs up button and make sure you're subscribed to see future content. Now with that out of the way, let's get into it. Python for loops are one way you can loop over your code without having to type out the same command over and over again. The convenience of for loops is it'll iterate over the list until it reaches the end. While loops, which I'll cover in a future video, are similar. However, they will run forever until a specific condition is met where you force the code to quit. Let's look at a few examples of how to use for loops. Let's start by first creating a list of superheroes containing Batman, Superman, and Spider-Man. If we wanted to print out each item, we could simply repeat the print statements with Hero 0, Hero 1, and Hero 2. While this works, imagine we had 1,000 or even 1,000,000 items in it. This would become unsustainable. This is where for loops come into play. Let's type for hero in heroes, and then hit enter. You will see the cursor is indented on the line below, indicating what will be run within this loop. What we have done here is told Python to create a temporary variable hero and assign an element from the list of heroes. Each time the loop iterates, it assigns the next element in the list. This temporary variable can be anything and is often simply just a letter, but try to get in the habit of using variable names that describe the item. Let's finish the loop by typing print hero and then run the cell. You will see Python has iterated over the list and has printed each element. Now let's look at a couple ways we can add breakpoints and exit the loop before it iterates over the entire list. On the line after print hero, let's add an if statement and check if the hero is Superman, and if it is, break. If you're unfamiliar with if statements, check out my other video in the upper corner on how to use them. Make sure this if statement is indented under the for loop the same way as the print statement is above it. When we run it, we will see the output of Batman and Superman, but not Spider-Man. That's because if we step through the loop, it'll first print the hero Batman, then check if it's Superman. It will then move to the next hero Superman and print, then check if it's Superman. In this case, the hero is Superman, so the loop stops. Now let's move the if statement to before the print statement. When we run it again this time, we only get Batman. In this case, the loop starts with Batman, but first checks to see if it's Superman before printing. On the next iteration, the hero is Superman. In this case, the hero is Superman, so the loop stops. Neither case is right or wrong. It just illustrates that where you set your breakpoints can make a difference in how your code executes. Now let's say we didn't want to exit a loop when a condition is met, but rather skip over the element. This is where we would use continue. Let's change break to continue and run the code. Here we can see the printout is Batman and Spider-Man. Here's what's going on in the background. The first iteration is Batman. It checks to see if it's Superman, then prints Batman. The next iteration is Superman. It checks to see if it's Superman. Since it is, and we specified to continue, it skips over the rest of the for loop and moves to the next. The last iteration is Spider-Man. Again, it checks to see if it's Superman and then prints. Sometimes we don't have a list to iterate over, but rather we need to repeat a line of code a number of times. We can use the same for loop, but with the built-in Python function range. The range function is flexible, and you can pass 1, 2, or even 3 variables to change the functionality. Let's see how. In the next cell, let's type for I in range 6, and add print I below the for loop. When this runs, Python creates a list of integers, starting with 0 and going up to, but not including 6. Oftentimes, people will use a single letter as a counter, but again, this could be anything. If we pass 2 integers into the range function, we can specify both the start and end of the list. Additionally, if we add a third variable, it will set it as an interval. So let's change the function and set it to start at 10, end at 25 for every 5th number. We can see it shows 10, 15, and 20. Remember, it won't include the end number you've listed in the range function. In some cases, you may see an else statement at the end of the for loop. While this is not necessary or even that common, this is the line of code that will execute last. Let's add it with a print done statement below. This should be indented the same as the initial for loop. You can see it iterates over the range and finishes with a done message. For the end, let's look at some nested for loops. These are good if you need to iterate over multiple lists or arrays at a time. Let's first start by creating a list of colors with red, blue, and green. Next, let's create a list of cars called Chevy, GM, and Toyota. Let's say we wanted to print all of the possible combinations of the 3 colors and the 3 cars. This is how we would do it. We first start by creating a for loop for color in colors, colon. Then on the next line, we add another for loop for car in cars, colon. Finally, on the third line, we create an F string with the message the car is color with both car and color inside curly brackets. If you have any questions on F strings, check out my Python basics video listed above. Take note how each for loop is adding another indentation. I'll explain in a minute. When we run the cell, we can see the output prints each of the possible combinations. What we are doing is first starting with colors and selecting red. Then we are going on to the next for loop cars and selecting Chevy. With those 2 items selected, it then prints. Next, Python will iterate to the next card GM since it is currently in the cars loop. Since the color is still red, it prints GM in red. The next iteration is for the cars loop to select Toyota and then print Toyota is red. Now that Python has finished iterating over the cars loop, it moves to the next color, blue. After that, it reiterates over the cars list again, and after that, it finally moves to green and reiterates over the cars list one more time before finishing both loops. And that about wraps it up. Here we have covered what a for loop is and how to use it to iterate over a list. We looked at how to adjust the functionality by establishing breakpoints and continue statements. We also looked at how to use a for loop with Python's built-in range function. Lastly, we looked at a semi-complex case where we nested 2 for loops to iterate over multiple lists. I hope this video was helpful, and if it was, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment for future videos. Until next time.